So that's a typical blues in G, kind of based it on Stormy Monday, like by Allman Brothers. I used so many different variations of what those chords imply within those single note lines, because almost all of it works all the time. It's kind of crazy. Blues is the most malleable kind of form of music in that I can use a minor pentatonic. I could stay here. I could just as easily have stayed right here. Could have stayed in a G minor box for that whole entire thing. Myself, I like getting around on the neck, but it's not wrong to sit here and stay in the G minor pentatonic scale. I also tend to gravitate towards that major note on the one chord, which is right there, that B note. I do a lot of like pre-bends and stuff. But what I really wanted to talk about real quickly is how jumping up a fourth from the one chord, even on the one chord. I'll show you what I mean. You can use what's called the BB box, and it's named after B.B. King. It's simply a form of a pentatonic scale. It's a major pentatonic scale. Duane Allman would use it when he wasn't playing slide guitar. Duane would solo. You know, he was a great single note soloer as well, which isn't often available to hear. But anyways, so what do you have in the C major BB box, right? You have a lot of different options. You got that E note and that G note work so well because they're the relative minor of G major. Okay, so Duane would use the B flat note. He would also use an A natural note. He would go things like that. That's not verbatim of anything he does, but like, you know, bending up to that C note. He would also bend up to that B natural. Right there, there's a lot of implications. You could say the B natural relates to G major, E minor. Look right here, right? G major triad, G major triad, you know, dyad, sorry. This would imply E minor. So if I that, to me, is fairly well in E minor. I did replace that B with a C note, which gives it that B.B. King kind of vibe. So I'll show you this lick real quick. If I'm on the one chord, say G, or rather, let's switch keys, right? Let's go to A. Typically a little bit more B.B. King sounding than doing this in A minor. Again, playing an A7 chord, you got the flat 7 and you got that major third. For some bizarre reason in the blues, that minor note, I always bend up to the major. For some bizarre reason though, it's very acceptable to use the minor third. in that case of A, it would be C, natural. Back to the major, that's C sharp. For me, that's like a habit I'm sort of trying to break, specifically for this lesson. But anyways, you know, I could stay here on the one chord. That's another thing. All those old blues guys used to do this. I have a theory about why it's not audible on certain Otis Rush records, or I have a feeling that it's simply a sort of a lack of gain in some cases, but you can hear it when you really pay attention. What sounds often like this is usually this, or what sounds maybe more like, they did that all the time, this little tag. So in A minor, Hendrix everywhere, you know, you hear it in Red House, but you know, Red House is a good example of using pretty much everything. Jimi Hendrix exploits major and minor almost in the entirety of that song, and in his recorded version of that solo, he literally, like, he exploits everything. I'll do the short version. Short, fast version. Right, there's one right there. That just showed up on my page. Now right here, the major scale. Right there, that's on the 4 chord, the 5 chord rather. That. Right there. There's that raised 6 in the B. But then he'd also literally do this, which is minor implication. I'm just trying to make the point that the blues is kind of all over the board. It all works. Which in some ways, for my own personal taste, led me to find out how other things worked in jazz. Which isn't to say I know how everything works in jazz. I don't. I think, but I do know a lot more based on, you know, the way Pat Martino uses minor scales. It's actually very logical, and it applies. I approach it the way Martino looks at things. I can almost look at it at the way I learned how to do everything I know with blues, and take almost everything of Pat's, which is far more advanced harmonically. However, it's easy to understand based on what you learn from blues. You know, this right there, there's an E major. He bends up to an E flat. And then he does that Albert King thing